everybody! What's happening, everybody? Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the Comey Brennan probe that has been going on with the FBI as the DOJ has referred them for criminal investigation following many of their multiple lies to Congress. Matt Gaetz brings you the receipts because, much of this DOJ probe comes from John Brennan lying to him while he was a member of Congress. We're going to show you Matt Gaetz breaking all of that down. Also, we've got new financial numbers coming out with America taking in nearly $300 billion this year in tariff revenue. Big stuff, definitely big stuff. Also, a quick programming note. On tomorrow's show, firstly, I have an awesome guest coming on tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss that. Awesome guest, good friend of mine. But the first half of tomorrow's show, make sure you guys stay tuned for, because I'm going to be talking about an issue that is getting virtually no attention in either the press or the podcast realm, almost anywhere. And I think it's something that really needs to be discussed. It is the next American opioid epidemic, the next epidemic that is sweeping this nation, that is going to cause a very serious problem for all the American people, that are particularly young men. The next problem that we're going to face. So please do the first half of tomorrow's show. Tune into that, because I've got some great commentary that we're going to go over. I'm going to leave it right there. I want you guys to tune in tomorrow and see. So this is a story that is getting nearly no attention anywhere in the press, and I really think that it needs to. And if you follow me on any of the other social media platforms, you know what I'm talking about. Because, I've been railing about it for about 12 hours now. And I put together a little piece for you, and I want to make sure you guys see that. Before we get started, though, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We are rocking. We are rolling here. Let's pop this live chat. Oh, what are we doing here? Live chat up onto the screen. There we go. Hit the right button that time. Guys, before we get rocking, before we get rolling, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFATV related. Help get us to the arc, baby. Help get us to the arc. I know Jeremy's got a big plan for the end of July for that. We really appreciate your support in helping us do some of this on-the-ground stuff. So, guys, head on over to lfatv.us and support the network. Hit the donate button. Support our sponsors. All of that good stuff. lfatv.us. What's happening, everybody? Shout out to everybody watching. Mayor Anna Marie, what's happening? There you go. Big one here. Big one right there. Let's see. Jeanette, how are you? AC Knight, as always. Let's pop over to the Rumble chat. Rachel Boone, how are you? How are you? I'm curious if you guys can come up with what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. I would be curious to see if anybody pays attention. If anybody pays attention to what I do on all the other social media apps. So, chat, if you know it, shout it out. Give everyone a little tease. Arrow Pink, Bobby, what's happening? What's happening? Patriot for life. How you doing, Bob? What's going on? I'm doing well. Also, guys, this weekend I will be at the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit in Tampa, Florida. If you're in the area, come on down and say hello. That's Tampa, Florida, from the 11th through the 13th. Let's see. What do we got? Sly, how are you? Ellen, how are you? Gina Marie, 6 years in recovery today. Well, congratulations. That is quite the feat. That is quite the feat, really. I know a lot of people who unfortunately have not been able to overcome that affliction. So congratulations to you. That is a serious it's a serious accomplishment. Happy for you there. Congratulations, Gina. Let's dive right on in with the breaking news of this hour. James Comey and John Brennan have been referred to the DOJ for criminal prosecution for lying to Congress.
All right, following up on our breaking news, Brooke Singman of Fox News Digital has discovered exclusively that the FBI is now investigating the former CIA Director John Brennan and the former FBI Director James Comey in conjunction with the genesis of the Russia investigation. This comes after the CIA declassified last week a report into how that all came about. Let's bring in our panel to talk more about this. Annie Linsky, the White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, USA Today White House correspondent, Francesca Chambers, and Josh Holmes, co-host of the Ruthless podcast and former chief of staff to Senator Mitch McConnell. Annie, start us off here. The fact that the FBI is looking into Brennan and Comey now, when this declassified CIA report came out, people said, will prosecutions follow? We don't know if it'll be a prosecution, but it's an investigation at this point.
And at this point, you know what? I'll take the investigation. At this point, we don't know where it's going to lead. We don't know what will happen. But what is the exact nexus of this? What is the exact nexus? Where is it coming from? Why is it happening? Well, this from the Post-Millennial. The FBI has launched a criminal investigation into the Russia collusion hoax, according to Fox News. The outlet reportedly citing DOJ sources that CIA Director John Ratcliffe has given evidence concerning Brennan to the FBI Director Kash Patel that an investigation into Comey is underway. The probe comes after a review of the investigation into the Trump-Russia collusion investigation. It was determined that decision by agency heads to include the Steele dossier in the ICA ran counter to, in the CIA, ran counter to fundamental tradecraft principles and ultimately undermine the credibility of the key decision. Now, what exactly does all that mean? Well, Matt Gaetz breaks it down, considering he is the one who did the question asking when he was in Congress. Here's Matt Gaetz.
There is a clear case to prosecute former Obama CIA Director John Brennan, and I'm going to lay it out for you. Let's establish this first. Lying to Congress is a crime under 18 U.S.C. 1001, which makes it illegal to knowingly and willfully make any false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation in any manner within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch. The lie must be material. It must be made knowingly and willfully. The law applies when testifying under oath or providing information to congressional investigators. Violations can result in fines and up to 5 years in prison. 5 years in prison for lying to Congress. And just in case you think these cases never get prosecuted, they do in very high-profile ways. General Michael Flynn, who we frequently had on this program, was prosecuted for this crime. Michael Cohen lied to Congress and spent time in prison for it. Roger Stone was prosecuted and on his way to prison in Jessup, Georgia, before President Trump relieved him of that sentence through a commutation. Martha Stewart was actually acquitted of insider trading, but convicted and jailed for violating this law regarding her false statements. So it does happen. So assess how strong the case against deep state tycoon John Brennan is. The year was 2023, and as a congressman on the Weaponization Subcommittee, I was taking a behind-closed-doors deposition of John Brennan. The topic was his leadership of a letter characterizing the Hunter Biden laptop story as Russian disinformation. By 2023, we all knew that Hunter's laptop was real. It wasn't Russian disinformation. It was left by Hunter at a computer repair shop. So at the time, we were investigating how a group of over 50 former intelligence officials were leveraging the imprimatur of their security clearances, their access to classified information, to lie to the American people about the Hunter laptop. I asked Brennan how he assessed, wrongly, that the laptop had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. I asked him to list his bases for making this false claim. He made a huge mistake in the answer. He said, quote, "I tapped into my understanding and my knowledge of Russian counterintelligence activities and influence operations and made a determination at the time when I was asked to sign the letter whether or not I would agree to sign it, which I did." Once this response was provided, all of Brennan's experience assessing the tradecraft of Russian intelligence was relevant and material to his testimony and the work of Congress. He opened the door. Well, what Russian intelligence operation do you think I wanted to discuss most. The Steele dossier, of course. The Steele dossier was assembled by a foreign spy and from subsources that were directly connected to Russian intelligence. The dossier was worked into the highest levels of the FBI through Bruce and Nellie Orr. James Comey and Rod Rosenstein even used the dossier to secretly and illegally spy on President Trump's campaign 3 times.
Now, we all knew that. We knew that it was a lie. But the point of this is the relevant information clause in, I think it's USC, I forgot the exact statute, but lying to Congress. It's the relevant information clause. If the FBI comes to you and says, is it raining? And you say no, and it is, you can't be prosecuted. Because the weather outside is not relevant information to whatever they may be asking you. But the minute John Brennan said that he used his expertise to determine that it was Russian disinformation is immediately when Matt Gaetz had him. Because guess what? Here's the dirty little secret that nobody wants to tell you, is that there are a lot of people in Congress, who are lawyers. And by lawyers, I mean that they went to law school. I played baseball when I was younger. That doesn't make me a baseball player. There are a few people in Congress, like Matt Gaetz, who are actually good lawyers and who actually know how to question a witness. And because of that, he trapped John Brennan into that statement. By doing so, he opened up the ability for that probe. Back to the article. Radcliffe declassified a lesson learned review of the Intelligence Community Assessment, the ICA, from 2017. The ICA alleged that Russia attempted to push Trump into office. However, the review of the ICA discovered procedural abnormalities and that officials rushed to judgment in the ICA, thwarting standard use of intelligence community standards. The Steele dossier, of course, as we know, had a slew of false claims related to Trump and had been commissioned by Hillary Clinton during the campaign. Both Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid a fine over that. Of course, who cares about the fine? The source, who also spoke to Fox News, could not share the specific details surrounding the investigation, but said that Brennan had violated the public trust and should be held accountable for it. In 2023, Brennan testified in Congress that the dossier should not have been in the ICA, despite pushing for its inclusion only 6 years earlier, the declassified records show. Fox News reports the false statement portion of the probe stems from a newly declassified email sent to Brennan by the former deputy CIA director in December of 2016. The message said that including the dossier in the ICA in any capacity would jeopardize, quote, the credibility of the entire paper. Despite these objections, Brennan showed a preference for narrative consistency over analytical soundness. The CIA reviewed the ICA documents that stated, when confronted with specific flaws in the dossier by the 2 mission center leaders, one who had extensive operational experience, and the other with a strong analytical background, he appeared more swayed by the dossier's general conformity with existing theories than by legitimate tradecraft concerns. What does that mean? That is some legal jargon right there. Holy crap. Every one of those words had like 6 syllables in it. What did that mean? Well, that means John Brennan chose to ignore the facts and stuck with the popular narrative, which you can't do, which is a crime. Brennan ultimately formalized his position in writing, stating that, quote, my bottom line is that I believe that the information warrants inclusion in the report, In Congress in 2020, however, he said the opposite. Brennan testified before the House subcommittee at the time, saying, quote, that the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the intelligence community assessment, and that they sent over a copy of the dossier to say that this was going to be separate from the rest of the assessment. Now, that's obviously not what happened. That's the popular narrative that got run with, and because of that, we had to sit through 5-10 years worth of Russian collusion. Now, look, we know that Russia collusion is baloney. We know that. I know that, you know that, everybody knows that. And even if we were going to say, let's in the past, let's forget about it, whatever. We know somebody that's going to be saying that soon. Even if we were to say that, what downstream effects did the idea that Donald Trump was a stooge of the Russians have on foreign policy moving forward? What do I mean? Is Russia really the threat that we think they are? Are they really the, I don't want to say enemy because they certainly are the enemy of the United States, but did the idea that Russia tried to implant Donald Trump in the election, did that idea, I don't know, impact how the Biden administration and congressional Democrats, congressional Republicans viewed the Russia-Ukraine conflict? I don't know. Did it? Did it make it seem like Russia had more nefarious goals? Because if you add that piece to the puzzle, let's just say that we use the John Brennan narrative, and then we follow the world events as they go. Russia takes Crimea in 14. In 16, they install Donald Trump. Then after 2020, they invade Ukraine. That timeline is a hell of a lot different if you take out the middleman, which obviously happened. And I've said it on this show dozens of times. Russia could never do to the United States what Democrats and the mainstream media have concocted that they did. They could never divide America the way America has been divided if they wanted to. I've made the joke oftentimes that, like, the Ayatollahs and Xi Jinping and Putin, they must all get together and go, wow, these Americans are killing themselves out here, blaming us, and we didn't even have to do anything. Russia could not have done to America what half of America thinks Russia did to America, even if they wanted to. Why? Because they bought Facebook ads? I got news for you. I bought Facebook ads. They don't do anything. They don't do a damn thing. But hey, there are still people out there. You still have your liberal cousin. You still have your obnoxious sister-in-law that'll just yell, Russia, 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 over and over and over again. And Trump is the tool of Putin. And jackasses like Kyle Kulinski will put out memes with Trump bent over in front of Vladimir Putin over and over and over again on a completely fictional and false narrative. That was perpetuated by the CIA and by the FBI under the likes of John Brennan and James Comey, who then lied to Congress about it. I've long said, the only way you go to jail for lying to Congress is if you're a Republican, as Matt Gaetz said there. General Flynn. Roger Stone. I believe Paul Manafort as well. That's the only time you go to jail. That's the only time you're even investigated, prosecuted, convicted. You do it as a Democrat, nobody cares. Eric Holder was held in contempt of Congress. Nothing happened to him. Steve Bannon was held in contempt of Congress. He did 3 months in jail. So there isn't a two-tiered justice system, but a three-tiered justice system. And that's the important part right there. That's the part we need to focus on. So I know a lot of people are sitting there and they're frustrated. They think, all we get is investigations. We never get any prosecutions. We never get anything. Well, I got news for you. Before you get the conviction, before you get the prosecution, before you get the jail time, you got to have the investigation. It's just a step. This isn't Law and Order, guys. There isn't a murder committed 2 minutes into the show, and the murder is solved 2 minutes before the end of the show, okay? These things take time. Government is supposed to move slowly. I don't like it. You don't like it. It's the world we live in. But at least this is a step in the right direction. Another step in the right direction is the fact that if we look at the Supreme Court in terms of the Justice Department, even liberal justices are now coming out and saying that Ketanji Brown Jackson, you're dumb. You're really, really dumb. And we'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do that, here's Jeremy.
Hey everyone, sorry to barge in like this, but I do want to talk to you about this opportunity for 45% off of everyday dose coffee. And this isn't just your regular coffee, folks. If you're like me, you love your coffee routine. I've loved my coffee routine since I was probably 16 years old. Unfortunately, as I've gotten older, some of the coffee that I love doesn't love me back and does cause bloating, does cause jitters, can only drink so much a day, and there's really only so much I can do with it. Now, everyday dose is known as coffee plus benefits. And what I mean by that, folks, is A, there is an ingredients booklet in there that gives you a ton of different recipes on how to make cold brew coffees of all different kinds, lattes, different hot coffees, and more. But the greatest thing about Everyday Dose is it is known as coffee plus benefits, meaning that you're going to have 100% Arabica coffee, and you're going to also have lion's mane, chaga, collagen protein, and nootropics that keep your brain focused. No jitters, no heart palpitations, and a ton of different recipes. And you're going to get a frother, a tumbler, a box set with a bunch of different gifts in it, an ingredients booklet for recipes, coffee, and more for only $27, folks. 45% off by going to everydaydose.com/LFATV. That's everydaydose.com/LFATV. Why not expand your experiences with coffee? That's everydaydose.com/LFATV.
Guys, go to everydaydose.com/LFATV. That's everydaydose.com/LFATV. So yesterday, the Supreme Court upheld a few cases for the Trump administration, but one of them is big in terms of cutting the size of government. The Supreme Court yesterday, this from Fox 28 Savannah, the Supreme Court lets Trump proceed with federal workforce cuts. Now, before we dive into the meat and potatoes of this decision and the subsequent laughing at, we're all going to do it at the expense of Ketanji Brown Jackson, let's just use the layman, okay? Let's use the layman here. Democrats, leftists, were arguing that the president has the power to hire federal workers, but not fire them. Does that make any sense to anyone? Not me. The Supreme Court on Tuesday cleared the way for President Donald Trump's plan to downsize the federal workforce, despite warnings that critical government services could be lost, blah, blah. Of course, this article comes from the AP, so, you know what you're going to get there. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was the only dissenting voice, accusing her colleagues of a demonstrated enthusiasm for greenlighting this president's legal dubious actions in an emergency posture. Jackson warned of the enormous real-world consequences. Quote, this executive action promises mass employee termination, widespread cancellation of federal programs and services, and the dismissal of much of the federal government as Congress has created it. Now, a couple of things, Justice Jackson, you dumbass. That is not what you do, okay? If you want to give your opinion, go become an MSNBC pundit. I got no problem with people that give their opinions. That's what I do, okay? That's why I am a poor podcast host and not a Supreme Court justice making $250,000 a year and a $3 million advance on my book that nobody's going to buy, like you, Miss Jackson. If I wanted to live that life, I would have. Your job is to interpret the law. But with a big elbow drop, a huge elbow drop off the proverbial top rope, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson earned a quick little pop, quick little jab from one of her liberal colleagues on Tuesday as the justices increasingly feel compelled to single her out in legal opinions. The Supreme Court on Tuesday granted a stay of the lower court ruling that halted the Trump administration's mass layoffs. Jackson was the sole dissenting voice, and in a concurring opinion, Justice Sotomayor expressly addressed and shut down another liberal justice's arguments. She said, quote, "I agree with Justice Jackson that the president cannot restructure federal agencies in a manner inconsistent with congressional mandates." Okay. Here, however, the relevant executive order directs agencies to plan reorganizations and reductions in force consistent with applicable law. The plans themselves are not before the court at this stage, and we, thus, have no occasion to consider whether they can or will be carried out consistent with the constraints of law. Jackson, in her dissenting opinion, explicitly asserted that the issue at hand was a matter of restructuring, which Sonia Sotomayor outright objected. Quote, "What is at issue here is whether the executive order affects the mass restructuring of the federal government, the likes of which have historically been approved by Congress, on the one hand, or a minor workforce reduction consistent with existing law." As Sotomayor wrote, the merits of the reform were not before the court. So the question wasn't, can Donald Trump restructure something in some way? The question was, can he restructure it at all? If Donald Trump, here we go, let's give another example. If Donald Trump wanted to say that all federal workers are permanently on vacation with pay until the end of time, he could do that. If Donald Trump wanted to say, "Oh, damn, we got a real problem here. We got to move some accountants from the Interior Department to the VA Department," it's a restructuring, which is exactly what he did with the Executive Order 14210. He moved the remaining members of USAID under the State Department purview. Though a relatively soft rebuke, Sotomayor singling out of Jackson's remarks, the latest incident of the Supreme Court justice feeling the need to explicitly slap down another Biden appointee. Of course, we saw the other day, or back in June, we should say, Amy Coney Barrett did exactly the same thing. But the more Justice Jackson continues to be an activist and not a judge, the more we're going to get funny clips like this one from Jesse Waters.
So we dodged Kamala, but there's one gift from Biden that keeps on giving. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who just sat down for a little interview with ABC News, and she sounds like Harris in a robe.
I think I'm aware that people are watching. They want to know how I'm going to perform in this job and in this environment. And so I'm doing my best work, as well as I can do, because I want people to see and know that I can do anything just like anyone else.
Ketanji has one of the most important jobs in the country, deciding cases based on the Constitution. Too bad nobody told her, because she thinks she was put on the court to talk about her feelings.
What I feel that I've been privileged to do is use the writings that I do, the work that I do, to explain my views about the way our government does and should work, the way the court does and should work. I think the nice part about being on the court is that you have the opportunity, whether you're in the majority or in the dissent, to express your opinions.
Ketanji expresses her opinions so much, the other 8 justices want her to shut up.
It's funny to me how people focus on how much I talk at oral argument. And I was always this person on the bench. And so it's been a bit of an adjustment because as a trial court judge, you have your own courtroom. So you can go on as long as you want. And so trying to make sure that my colleagues get to ask some questions has been a challenge for me. But I've enjoyed it. I really have.
They haven't. No wonder Ketanji speaks so much. She can't figure out what's going on.
I don't understand how we can do it on this record, but I guess I don't understand that given your argument. I guess I don't really understand it. I guess I don't understand. Am I mischaracterizing? I don't understand where this idea of universal injunctions comes from. And that's the part that I don't understand.
Last week, the court decided a case 8-1. The one dissent? Jackson. Her dissent was so ridiculous that even Sotomayor had to tell her she didn't understand the case. I agree with Justice Jackson. Here, however,
let's put this into context, okay? I know several judges, one very closely. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has spoken more from the bench in her 1 year as a Supreme Court judge than Clarence Thomas has since 1991, since I was 2 years old. Do you understand what that means? Your job as a judge is not to argue with the attorneys. Your job is to listen to the attorney's arguments and then make a decision based on those arguments. Really, if you boil it down to its most basic, your job as a judge is to sit down and shut up. Do you know, since 1991, Clarence Thomas has spoken on the Supreme Court bench 3 times. He's asked 3 questions in 32 years. Yet, Ketanji Brown Jackson argues with the attorneys that she doesn't like and then claims she doesn't understand the questions. Do you know why? Because she's a dumbass. Because she wants to be a star. And I'm sorry. There are many places in American government that you can be a star and do nothing. Mostly the U.S. Senate, Fox News, CNN. These are all places for you to become a star. Justice Jackson, the Supreme Court bench ain't it. It ain't it. Unfortunately, she's like 55, so we're going to be stuck with her for another 2 decades, at least. But that's the system we have. We've gotten Clarence Thomas for almost my entire life, and I'm very happy with that. But he knows what the job is. You can disagree with his decisions. You can say that he's too much of an originalist. All right, these are all fair arguments. But your job as a justice is not to talk. It's to sit down and shut up. And apparently she just doesn't get that. She just doesn't get it. Guys, do me a favor and hit that like button. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you're following the page wherever it is you're watching from. If you're watching on Facebook, do me a favor. Hit that @ button. So that hit the @ button and tag your followers so that more of your friends. There is a lunatic in the YouTube chat, William Piazzo. There's a lot. You are getting the boot. Boom. There we go. No more from that guy. Guys, make sure you hit the like button. It really helps out. It really helps the show out. Share it out with all of your friends. Let's pop the Rumble chat up onto the screen. Let's pop up that Rumble chat here. Did anybody guess? Did anybody guess what I'm talking about tomorrow? Let's see here. Did anybody guess what I'm talking about tomorrow? Guys, do me a favor once again, hit that thumbs up button. Also, everybody, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on. Also, guys, if you don't mind, boom, hit that little donate button, or you can pick up one of these phenomenal Fight t-shirts. You know you want one. It's there for you. Grab it today. Guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. What's up, Chicky Mama? How are you? Gina Marie, Natalie, what's happening? What's happening? What is happening? You don't understand why these people can't be removed? Because you would have to be impeached. And that would require 2/3 of the Senate. And we don't have it. We don't have it. I wish we did, but we don't. I wish we did, but we don't. But we don't. Guys, once again, hit the thumbs up button. Nah, Natalie, not Lee Zeldin. No, I wish. I wish. Soon, maybe. So, maybe I will text Lee. See if he comes on the show one day. Let's keep rocking. Let's keep rolling here. We got big numbers today, and I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. Guys, hit the thumbs up button. Let's get moving and grooving here. Oh, wait a minute. You could put Trump emojis, Trump GIFs in the live chat. That is awesome. That is great. There we go. I like that a lot. So let's keep on moving and grooving here. So we've got big numbers coming out of the financial reports. One of the biggest ones, and this is going to help attribute to the concept of the debt that we are accruing. The U.S. is expected to generate $300 billion in tariff revenue in 2025. This came as Scott Bessent sat down in the Treasury meeting yesterday, saying that the U.S. has brought in almost $100 billion in revenue since Donald Trump has taken office. These are huge numbers. Bessent told those in the Tuesday cabinet meeting, we've taken in about $100 billion in tariff income thus far this year, and that's with the major tariffs not having started until the second quarter. So we can expect to take in over $300 billion by the end of the year. He went on to add that over the course of the next 10 years, there will be a $2.8 trillion in government income generated by tariffs. Now, much of that tariff revenue comes in conjunction with the tax cuts. You're going to have more money in your pocket, which you will then choose to use on the things that you want to buy. If you don't want to buy a Mercedes-Benz, you don't get hit with a car tariff. This is very obvious stuff, real basic stuff that some people have a very serious issue with understanding. I don't know why they can't seem to figure it out, but they are. This comes as Scott Bessent announces new trade deals coming over the next couple of days.
Yeah, we are going to have several announcements in the next 48 hours. And, Joe, I think what President Trump is concerned about is the quality of the deals, not the quantity. As you could imagine, as he started herding the cats and trying to get everyone across the finish line, when he said that there's a chance that countries could boomerang back to their April 2nd reciprocal tariff levels, we've had a lot of people change their tune in terms of negotiations. So my mailbox was full last night with a lot of new offers, a lot of new proposals. So it's going to be a busy couple of days. But importantly, too, that President Trump has said that the countries would not go back to the reciprocal rate until August 1st.
I don't know why, but I just get like a feeling when I see that guy that I just instinctively trust him. He's got like a look about him. He also released letters to countries regarding the U.S. tariff policy on Monday, with letters being sent to Tunisia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, South Africa, Laos, Bosnia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Serbia, and Myanmar. Now, let's read those countries off again. There were 12 countries I just named. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to put the chat up here. Let's play a little game. Let's see if everybody knows their geography. What country is almost completely encircled by Japan, South Korea, Kazakhstan, Laos, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Myanmar? What country is almost completely encircled by those nations? I wonder, everybody. Does everyone know their world geography here? Does everybody know exactly what it is? What country is in the middle of all those countries? Let's see. Let's see if everybody paid attention in 5th grade social studies. A little circle here. What could it be? I see some people in the chat. Bishop, you might have it. B-Hops, okay. There's the first one. Natalie said Australia. No. There we go, chat. The chat's figuring it out. Why? Because these tariff threats are not to punish the countries the tariffs are going on. The tariff threats are to incentivize the countries surrounding China to do what America wants. Why? So that we can extract as much of the slave labor going on in China, possibly exporting some of that to those countries. Now, when Donald Trump lowers the tariff rate on them after they comply with the United States' demands, they will then be incentivized to trade more with the United States, cutting China out of that market. Also, if we look, South Africa is in there. Why? South Africa is one of the BRICS nations. It turns out, just maybe, Donald Trump might know what the hell he's doing. He might know what he's doing. I'm not saying he definitely does, but let's roll the dice and see. Maybe he knows what he's doing. I know what you guys are doing. You're going to Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. And join the bank that is supporting the parallel economy. Guys, on tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking a little bit about Old Glory Bank. Everything a regular bank can do, everything your normal bank can do. There's no reason why you should be giving your money to Jamie Dimon when you could be supporting Old Glory Bank as they support the American mission to build back the American economy. Guys, go to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So, moving on. It was announced today that President Donald Trump and the Department of Justice is planning on suing California over their Title IX violations of allowing men to compete in women's sports. Why is this a big deal? Why is this a big deal? Well, on the back end, we're going to talk about it.
The Justice Department suing California over alleged Title IX violations. The lawsuit cites Governor Gavin Newsom's own words that biological males competing in women's sports is, quote, deeply unfair. The Justice Department slams policies that eviscerate equal athletic opportunities for girls, and they also require girls to share in intimate spaces such as locker rooms with boys, causing a hostile educational environment that denies girls educational opportunities. And speaking of education, the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, joins us now. I think we have to just go back and listen to Governor Newsom in his own words. This is when he did a podcast with Charlie Kirk.
I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness. So it's deeply unfair.
Would you speak out against this young man, A.B. Hernandez, who right now is going to win the state championship in the long jump? I can see you wrestling with it.
No, I'm not wrestling. I'm not wrestling with the fairness issue. I totally agree with you.
Tell us about the action you're taking today.
Well, Dana, thank you very much. You know, we investigated this. The Office of Civil Rights at the Department of Education investigated. We told Governor Newsom that we'd be investigating these violations. We found California to be in violation of Title IX. We turned it over to the Justice Department, and they announced this morning that they were filing suit against California. So, you know, this is something that President Trump campaigned on. His promises made and promises kept. I think it's just, it is just totally unfair to have men competing against women in sports, and also to share their intimate locker facilities, et cetera. And, you know, women fought hard for these rights, and it is the law, and the president means business with it.
A couple of things here. We're going to get into the exact Title IX violation in a second, but for all my 90s guys out there, I don't know, I just love seeing Linda McMahon out there. Like, it takes me back, SummerSlam 98. The guys will know what I'm talking about. The guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is brilliant. Why is this brilliant? Kevin, why is this brilliant? Well, because, let's be obvious, Pam Bondi could certainly use a win right about now. I don't know if there's anybody on this planet I'd like to be less than Pam Bondi at the moment. But more importantly, Democrats, die on this hill. Please, keep doing it. Die on this hill that you want men in women's sports. Kamala is for they, them. Trump is for you. One of the best political commercials I've ever seen. Take you back to Lee Atwater days. Phenomenal political commercial. Democrats keep dying on this hill. Do it. And we'll keep winning. Because this is the most obvious of the radical positions that Democrats hold that is completely insane. You don't, look, there's people out there, they don't understand tax policy. They don't understand climate change. They don't know Second Amendment. Do you need a machine gun? Blah, blah, blah. All the same arguments. Choice and life and drugs. And this. People know that men are better than women at sports. It's not. It is just something you know. And if you've ever watched Angel Reese play basketball, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? You don't need to be a brain surgeon. You don't have to wrong body. Sports, come on, man. LeBron James beats Caitlin Clark 100% of the time. There are guys playing at Rucker Park in Harlem right now that could beat the 5 best in the WNBA. And these are like out-of-work electricians. I'm not saying that they're not good. I'm not saying that when Caitlin Clark shoots up a 3 from the logo, it's not impressive. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm not saying that when Chloe Cole, what's it called? Not Chloe Cole. That was her name. Chloe something. The snowboarder. I'm not saying when she does all those flips, I'm not saying I could do that. But I'm not a snowboarder. I'll give you guys a little nugget about this, okay? A little interesting little nugget. In just 1 second, before we get to that, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to mypillow.com, promo code LAT. Let's play a little game here, okay? My favorite sport, baseball. Let's go Mets. How hard do you think the fastest pitch thrown overhand by any woman ever has been? 60 feet, 6 inches away, overhand with a baseball. Chat, let's see if you guys get even remotely close to this. Let's see if you get even remotely close. I'm curious to see what you guys come up with. The fastest pitch ever thrown by a woman. Let's see what you got as we scroll through the live chat. Guys, make sure you keep it locked in here, rumble.com/LFA-TV every single day, 1 p.m., but we're on all day. We're on all day. Will Johnson will be coming up next. Giddy up, let's go. Giddy up, let's go. Also, one more quick announcement. I will be at the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit. All right, let's see. What do we got here? We got numbers. Numbers are rolling in. 86, 85, 72, 93, 72, 64, 61. Some people have no idea. Joe says 90. Are you nuts? Yes, that would be a little bit insane. The fastest pitch ever thrown by a woman overhand is 86 miles an hour. 86 miles an hour thrown overhand by a 18-year-old left-handed pitcher in the Australia Professional League. 86 miles an hour. I want to be very clear. That is slightly slower than most high school boys pitch. Okay? Like, I never hit 86, but I got close. And I want to be clear, I wasn't a pitcher. I promise you right now, you show me a chick that throws 98, someone will put her on a team. It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. Just simply does not exist. Does not exist. And look, throwing 86 at 19 years old is impressive. That is impressive. But not comparatively so. Barry Bonds, with his juiced up forearms, would hit that from San Francisco into San Diego. Pete Alonso would hit it from Queens to the Bronx. It might hit a Yankee playing in Yankee Stadium if he hit that ball from Citi Field. I'm sorry. If Democrats want to die on this hill, then let them die on it. Let them die on it. Kelly Bensavanga, my son pitched 93 to 95 in high school. Yeah, that's like average. That's probably a little above average, but for high school. But I'm sorry. I'm not being a dick. It's just a reality. Democrats want to keep letting men dominate women's sports. I feel bad for the girls, and I know a lot of them. I've had Caitlin Wheeler on the show. I've had Paula Scanlon on the show. These are friends of mine who had to deal with this. It's not fair. Electorally, let California die on the hill. Because here's what's going to happen. There's only two things that are going to happen. Either Democrats are going to cave to the federal government on this, or Donald Trump will pick up a major Supreme Court victory, which will then trigger fairness in all 50 states. And all I got to say about that is hell yes. Hell yes. It is far past time for us to regain sanity in this topic. But while we're on the topic of baseball, I want to show you guys something that happened last night in the San Francisco Giants game that hasn't happened in more than 100 years, okay? If you don't like baseball, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. I don't know what the hell is wrong with you. The Giants were down 3-1 in the bottom of the ninth. Hitter comes up and hits a walk-off 3-run inside the park home run. I don't know how anybody can hate baseball.
It's a high drive. Way out into right field. It is off the bricks. This game is tied. Bailey's on the move. And this game is over.
You know, in the movie Moneyball, Brad Pitt famously says, it's hard not to be romantic about baseball. It just is. It just is. Plus, I wanted to play that because they beat the Phillies, you know, because it's Philly, so the hell with them. Guys, stick around for Will Johnson coming up next right here on this network. Stay tuned tomorrow. I got a big show I'm really excited about. I got a great guest coming on. We're going to be talking about Epstein and a whole bunch of other things. But the first half of the show, we're going to be talking about the next epidemic that is going to take over this country that nobody is talking about. Guys, do me a favor on the way out. Hit the thumbs up button. Stick around all day. Here's Will Johnson. Stay loud, everybody.